Only when you try to do something quick. Excellent. I got a question for you this morning. Here's the question. Do you believe in the God of the loaves and the fishes? This is not a rhetorical question. This is a question. Do you believe in the God of the loaves and the fishes? Come on. Do you believe in the God of the loaves and the fishes? Yes. Really? Are you sure? Yes. Thanks, Jim. What I want to do today, well, first of all, can you imagine what it must have been like to be a disciple and see that? Can you imagine what that would have been like? To see these little loaves and these little fishes all of a sudden feed all of these people? Could you imagine that? Well, I'm going to tell you a story that is very, very similar to the loaves and the fishes. A story that's very, very similar to the loaves and the fishes, and it starts right here. It starts in the mountains of a remote area of India. This is a very remote area of India. It takes a long time to get there. And someone, about 18 to 20 years ago, I don't know who, but someone asked this question. They lifted up their eyes to the hills and they said, "Where will my help come from?" Now, it may have been Sangha and his family, recognizing all the children on the streets. It may have been the children themselves asking this question, "Where will my help come from?" And the answer was, "My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth." And I'm going to tell you about how exactly that help came, because Jan and I had the opportunity almost a month ago now to travel to India and to see what's going on. We haven't been there in 3 years, and we got a chance to see it. And for me, it's very close to being able to be there and seeing the loaves and the fishes multiply and multiply and multiply. Because there is absolutely no way, none, that this could ever have happened if it wasn't for the maker of heaven and earth. And let me tell you why. I'm going to give you a little bit of the presentation that I give to other congregations, but I'm going to give it a little different flavor for you because you know a lot more about this. But I normally start and remind people that the James Connection comes from James 1:27, where it talks about blameless religion, taking care of orphans and widows. And I remind them that Angel's Place is in this really far little area over here in India, almost in Myanmar or Burma. In fact, one afternoon, Siam's son took me on the back of his motorcycle, holding on for dear life, up to a place where I could see Burma. I was that close to Burma. That's where it was. And I remind people that haven't seen this before that India is a very different place than what you and I are used to. A lot of poverty, not everywhere in India, but there are a lot of people everywhere in India. But there's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of challenge, there's a lot of crowds, there's a lot of challenge. And I remind them that James Connection built an orphanage that really does these things. It provides food and shelter, Christian instruction, clothing, healthcare, education, and life skills and vocational training. That's what I talk to them about. That's what we do in the James Connection ministry. But this is the reason why we do it. These are the faces of the children when I was there just a month ago. It's a remarkable thing. It's a remarkable thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you on a very quick trip. For Jan and I, it was a 10-day trip, and the return trip alone was 42 hours. Anybody want to go? But it was remarkable. I'm going to take you on a very quick trip because there's been a lot of things that have changed and a lot of improvement. Let's start with the boys' dormitory. That's the boys' dormitory there on the left-hand side, newly painted, looked great. I think they did that maybe just for us.
But, you know, that's the front side of it. This is the side. You see the boys up here, they're working, actually washing their own clothes every morning. Yeah, they get out to this big swimming pool and they get down and they wash their own clothes. You see the pictures on the left-hand side here? That's artwork that the kids have done inside. This is kind of interesting. Can you tell what this one is here? Can you tell what that one is? It's 3 minions holding onto a pipe that goes through the place. Kids are quite creative. That is the boys' dorm. This is the girls' dorm on the right-hand side there. The top floor is the meeting hall where they can hold up to 500 people. In fact, we had some celebrational activities there where they had tribal dancing and all kinds of things while we were there. The second floor is partly Siam's house. Siam, I'll introduce you to in just a second. He and his wife and his child, and partly the girls' dorm. The bottom floor, these two end things right here is the doctor's space area. This one actually right here. And then at this end is the dining hall, if you want, and then there's girls' dorms in the middle. So this is basically the girls' dorms, and this is new since we were there. Well, I've seen it once. This is the vocational education program center, which we'll talk more about in just a moment. More kids, and then just to very quickly show you what the insides of these dormitories look like. Each child has a bed. Each child has a box that they can keep their stuff in. Each child has a bed, not a bedroom, a bed. And in fact, most of the girls share their beds by their choice. Yes, I love this picture. Isn't this great? This is one of the older kids helping one of the younger kids with his studies. I walked up on it actually by accident. I wanted to show you the vocational center here very quickly. On the top here is where the computer training is going, and then on the bottom right here is where the bakery training has not yet begun, but they've got all the equipment to be able to do that after the first of the year. Exciting. They keep the place pretty clean, actually, particularly for India standards, and painted, and they planted these trees. Sanga's wife actually brought these trees from about 2 hours away, and they planted these, and they have the planters, and lots of foliage and things. Very quickly, as I'm giving you kind of a tour of the space, there's a new building that's not on Angel's property, but it sits behind Angel's property, Angel's Place property, on a piece of property that Sangha happened to own. And this is what happened based on the lemongrass ministry. Do you remember? We talked about growing lemongrass. This is where they started, and they bought some boilers where they make lemongrass, and we have this wonderful partner in doTERRA who buys the lemongrass from us because we're a nonprofit, and for the first time we've now started to turn a profit doing that. And God has blessed this ministry in odd ways. The government decided, because the people there had taken such leadership in lemongrass for the community, and Sangha and his son are very well known in the area for what they've done there, they gave them a grant, a big grant, to which they built a new building, and they've now put these pieces of equipment in here. So they've moved from just growing it to now they are, this is a testing area where they can test the purity. Here are some of the distilling kinds of tools. They now make tea as well as cones that are used for incense. All of this is profit for Angel's Place. And it has been severely blessed. It's remarkable. And it all just kind of grew since the last time we were there. I want to introduce you to a few people, some of which you're going to recognize very quickly. Everybody knows him, right? Jan, I just love that picture. I think it's a great picture of Jan. And this little guy right here is one of the people that Christine and I sponsor. There's a Sangha. Sangha is our main kind of support there. These two individuals are the ones that started this idea and made it come to life. But they couldn't do it without this guy. This is Anglion. Anglion is the superintendent, a childhood friend of Sangha's that Sangha convinced to be the superintendent. He is the father, in a lot of ways, of Angel's Place. He deals with all the educational issues for the children, if there are problems or issues or things at school. He deals with all the discipline problems with the children. I had a chance to see
his love and his support for these kids. One of the children, I've told you this before, I think, but at 10th grade and 12th grade, they have to take a test. If they don't pass that test, they have to take 10th grade or 12th grade again. Okay, so it's a state-based test. And India does this. They did it for me when I was traveling. They ask you these interesting questions like, what's your father's name? Well, my father's deceased, but you still have to put your father's name on there. One of the children had no idea who his father was, didn't know how to answer the question. He'd never met his father, didn't know what to do. The schoolmaster calls Anglion. Anglion comes and says, put my name. Put my name. And he serves that way. He lives in the community, doesn't live there. His wife lives nearby, but he's there every day. And he needs to be there, he told us, to watch the children come home from school. He is there every day to greet them as they return. Every day. Remarkable. These two individuals, this is Sangha, this is his second son, Siam. Siam now lives on the site at Angel's Place with his wife and his young daughter, and has revolutionized the organization of Angel's Place. He's a young, very bright young man that is kind of the chief operating officer of the place and really gets things done. And I'll explain that to you in a little bit. This is Sangi. Sangi actually has two responsibilities. She is the coordinator of our vocational activities and helps children try to find jobs and things like that. And she also actually is works with the kids' mental health. She's actually has a master's degree in mental health, and she supports the kids from that perspective. They took us out to dinner one evening, so this is the staff. And I won't take the time to introduce all of you, but I wanted to point out a couple things about the staff. You'll recognize a few folks. Jan, Siam, I don't know who that old guy is. But here's Sangi. These two individuals here are two of the wardens, they call them, the counselors for the kids. This one here grew up at Angel's Place, graduated from Angel's Place, and now has come back to be one of the wardens. Going to start here with Sangha. This gentleman is one of the wardens as well, also a graduate of Angel's Place who has come back to be supporting the kids. These two individuals here, they call the supervisors. It's kind of the male and the female supervisors. She's also a nurse. This is Sangha's niece, who serves as one of the other nurses there on site. She actually lives currently on site at Angel's Place and supports the kids' needs. This gentleman back here is one of the wardens, again, one of the children from Angel's Place that went to the Infall School of Preaching and now has come back to manage kind of the devotional and spiritual development of the children. Loaves and fishes, folks. I want to show you very quickly Sangha's family, just because they're so involved. Sangha, his wife, Siam, his second son, his wife. This is Sangha's oldest son and his wife. They're both social workers that support the ministry. And this is Sangha's third son, who is a physician who worked during all the COVID process and activity and gave all the kids the stuff. And this is his daughter, who is a dentist. Loaves and fishes. I think you probably know that we have 4 tutors for the children. These are the academic tutors here. Math, biology, sociology, and English. No, she's English, he's sociology. We have 4 tutors for the vocational center. I'll introduce those to you as well. 3 tutors, I'm sorry. That's Siam. These are the 2 digital natives, or the computer training. This is the woman who does the tailoring and sewing. There's Sangi, myself, and Jan. This is just an illustration of them teaching. This is the local physician who comes once a week to take care of the children. During COVID, he came very often to take care of the children. We had 16 children that tested positive for COVID. Only 1 actually was symptomatic, and we were able to isolate all 16. And the one, he managed them
through that. He also explained to us that the children are in extremely good health, with one exception, has to have a little surgery. She'll have that done very soon, but everything is great. Here they are getting their vaccinations. The kids over 12 have been vaccinated because that's the state policy at the moment, and they haven't started the under 12 yet, but they will, and the kids will be vaccinated. This is one room, and it is the medical facility. Folks, you're going to hear, we need a medical facility. And so that may be our next capital campaign. We have to decide that, but we need support. They don't even have Robitussin. I mean, they don't have any medication at this place. Anything they need, they have to go get. We need to fix this because we've got roughly 170 people on site. We need better facilities for that. Commercial break. This was lunch one afternoon for me. Jan loves to go to the man who sold us the property, and he has this beautiful garden where we had figs and yam worms. Delicacy, fried yam worms. Of course, you're in a different country, you got to eat one. That was it. I'm not going any farther than yam worms, but that's our commercial break. Let's look at the school very quickly. This is the headmaster of the Herman School. You know, our kids go to two different schools, the Herman School 10 and under, and then Rayburn College above that. Kids wear their uniforms, they have ID in school. This is I think this was in 10th, no, this was a 9th grade class. You say they all wear their masks and things like that. School is an important part of what they do every day, and they start at 5:30 in the morning studying. The tutors show up at 6 a.m. to work with the kids every morning, different groups every morning, and the kids work. These kids are actually in our library for what it is, working. It happened to be grade report day the day I got there, and this little guy came running to me because he wanted to show me this grade report. It was a good grade report. It was very good. And the headmaster says our children do extremely well in school because we spend a lot of time there and have invested a lot of resource there. Of course, the kids every afternoon are accountable to do different work of different kinds of activities, and they're always playing. You might remember a couple years ago we put the swing sets and things like that, and that has been a great success. In fact, part of it needs repaired and replaced because the teeter-totter kind of looks like this. It doesn't teeter, it just totters at this point. And the kids constantly are entertaining. They entertained us twice while we were there, and they are competitive with each other, but also with the community. This is one of the boys' soccer teams that competes in the region. And one of the sponsors and the wardens will go with them, protects the kids while they're off campus. But these kids are fabulous football players, soccer players, absolutely fabulous. Let me tell you about very quickly about the vocational activities. This is the tailoring or sewing side of what's going on. I slipped by it, didn't I? There we go. This is the sewing side. You can see we have one room. It's a small room. About 6 kids can get in there, but we have 3 or 4 sewing machines. This is the tutor. She is spectacular. She just had a baby, actually, as well, so she had the little one with her. But she works with the children to learn how to do everything from designing it to cutting it out to these are examples of what the children have produced, and every one of these dresses are examples of what the kids produced themselves for themselves. It's been a highly effective vocational activity, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. This is the new project we started a year or so ago we called it the Digital Natives, because we realized that these kids don't use computers in schools, and because they don't have access to computers in schools, they will never touch a computer. We can't let that happen, because to get a job, they're going to need to have computer skills. So we have 25 computers currently on site. Some of them are in a room in the vocational area, kind of like this, where the kids can go on and interact and work with this. These are the 2 tutors that come at 3:30. The kids have to give up their playtime. to be part of the computer thing, and there is a line of kids waiting to do it because this is partly playtime. They've put in wonderful projection screens. Their technology is pretty good, actually, here. This is the second room that's kind of a multi-purpose room, and here are all the computers that are laptops that can be put away and stored and secured. And I don't know if you can see this little thing right here, but we were so concerned we weren't going to be able to do anything with the computers because they wouldn't have internet access. They've got fiber optic cable. They got better access than we do here now because Siam sought it out, because Siam figured it out and made it happen. Wonderful. I would be remiss if I didn't remind you that this is the highlight of the trip when Jan and I go. Can you tell what they're doing? Reading their letters. I know we always have a struggle getting sponsors to write, and frankly, they have struggled getting the children to write back. And their challenge is more language and writing in English and things like that. Our challenge is sometimes just getting sponsors motivated. But we've got a congregation that I spoke to 2 weeks ago that has volunteered to help. So we've got some ideas, some things that might be able to help here. Kids love this. They kind of call their name out, and the kids, share. I got to tell you a story about this little guy. His name is Johnson. He didn't open his letters. He was like Christine used to be on Christmas. She'd hide that last present so that when everybody else was done, she could still open her present, right? That's what Johnson was doing. He looked at them, to see if there were stickers and things like that in there. But he waited until the next day because everybody else had done it. He could still get joy out of that. This is probably the most important slide of everything I'm going to show you because these children came back when they heard Papa Jan and Papa Jim were going to be on site. You see this woman right here? This was child number 1. Child number 1. She came on a motorcycle to see Jan and Leslie when they were working things out. She had no family. I think it was an uncle. I mean, she had no close, parents. It was an uncle that brought her. Number 1. She came back and brought her 2 children with her. This young woman, a graduate, is actually just about to enter military service, basically policeman. She's going to be a policeman. This guy, his name is Coop, and he was Jan's first person that they sponsored, he and Leslie. Coop is a history teacher in the community. These 2 individuals, actually both were there together and are now dating. But he works at the local hospital, managing the oxygen activities there. She's working on her master's degree to be an English teacher. This gentleman, a graduate about 2 years ago, works at the plant I showed you a few minutes ago for lemongrass. The lemongrass facility there, that manufacturing kind of facility, has committed that 70% of their employees will be children from Angel's Place. This gentleman was sponsored by Earl. We had no idea he was coming back. His name is Suresh Singh. But at the end of the graduation, one of the things that we were there to do was to celebrate the 10th grade kids that graduated and the 12th grade kids that graduated, and everybody did this time, which isn't always true, but everybody did this time have a big celebration. Probably 300-400 people were there to celebrate, big meal for the community. Remarkable. He showed up. He's at the mic. Because what they do at the end of this is they allow people to get up and say what Angel's Place means to them. Now, sometimes it's sponsors, not sponsors, but guardians of children that, I couldn't have fed my daughter, and I want to thank the people, and sometimes it's the community leaders, etc. He actually is what we would kind of call a pharmaceutical rep. He works and sells into hospitals. The only reason he knew that we were even there was he was selling into a regional hospital, and one of Siam's sons
who was a physician, was working there that day and said, please come. And he just showed up. Remarkable young man. I got connected with him when I was there first. I have a bracelet that he made for me when I was the very first time. And this young woman her name is Rejoice. She was number 12. She was the individual that Christine and I sponsored. She has come back every time I've been back. First, she showed me her boyfriend, then she showed me her husband, and now she showed me her 2 children. This young woman and this young woman make their living because of the tailoring class that was taught. I got to tell you, you guys know Jan, and I know this is on tape, but you know Jan as well as I know Jan. This was the moment that was hard for Jan, because we had 18 different children that came back and said, I got to come back and tell you that I wouldn't probably be alive, let alone I wouldn't be a Christian, let alone I wouldn't be employed. I wouldn't have a profession if it wasn't for Angel's Place. I should mention that also at the last Bible VBS that they had, we would call it VBS, they kind of had a little mini Bible camp, 24 additional Christians were added to the kingdom that day. But I want to tell you about this group of people. This is a very interesting group of children. These children come from all over the northeastern side of India, as far over as Burma. Most of them had no parents at all. All of them were destitute and struggling. And you know what's special about this group? 38 children here represent 47 sponsorships from this church. From this congregation, I counted this morning, there were 65 of us here. And I know there were people missing and things like that. But sponsor 47 sponsorships out of this congregation. So thank you for what you do. They appreciate what you've done for them and how you've done what you've done for them. But remember when I asked you earlier if you believe in the God of the loaves and fishes? Do you remember? Yeah. There you go. Thank you. Yes, you remember, right? Well, here's the challenge. We have 138 kids right now. 138, 132, somewhere in there. 138. In January, we want to bring in 30 more. 30 more. Because we can have up to 30. We want to say 160, all right, Sharon? Is that right? But let me help. Here's the challenge. So we have, let's say 138, we need 22. 22 children. We have no sponsors for these 22 children. None. Now, we work it out, but we need sponsors for these children. And the reason why I asked you if you believe in the God of loaves and fishes is because a lot of times, and this is the part I normally wouldn't say for other congregations, but a lot of times I go to other congregations and I ask if I can speak, and they say, we have a ministry budget, we have a missions budget, and we've already got it allocated. I appreciate that, and I appreciate what they do. But they've got a zero-sum mindset around their budget. They don't think about it like loaves and fishes. They don't recognize and understand that that's not how God works. This went from an empty rice paddy 20 years ago to now having over 450-ish children that have come through here whose lives have been changed, whose lives have been saved, because they looked around in the hills and they didn't know who was going to help them, because people do not help in India. But God did, in a very weird way. On the other side of the world, he found people that were willing and able to support, to love those kids. So Jan and I are kind of back on the road again, as Willie Nelson might say, to try to raise 22, I won't go much beyond that, Sharon, 22 plus sponsorships. So I just encourage you, if you believe in the loaves and the fishes, maybe if you've got one, you could take two. Maybe if you've got two, you could take three. $35 a month, you know the details. That's $420 a year. That is less than a cup of coffee a day. Save a kid's life. And you know, when I look at these children and the faces and the activities, I gotta tell you folks, this was literally like being there and seeing loaves and fishes going, what in the world just happened? Jan and I kept saying that over and over to each other. It's like, how could this have happened? But we've kind of got used to it here, and maybe, you know, the disciples got a little used to Jesus doing miracles, but I gotta say, folks, this is a very important thing to consider. So thank you for the support that you do provide, the prayers, the letters you write, the people that are on the different committees. It has changed not only these children, I believe it has changed this church because of that, because of the ministry here. So if there's a way that you can provide additional support to the ministry, however that is, prayer, sponsorship, committee membership, whatever, let us know, because I'm really old, you know, and I have been raised in a Christian home, thankfully, and I cannot think of a ministry that I have not been involved in. Bus ministries, campus ministries, teen ministries. I've been a deacon of worship, I've been a deacon of missions, I've been a deacon of education. All of those things are absolutely critical. I've never seen anything so much like loaves and fishes as this. I haven't. But, no. Can you tell where Jan and I are? We're like a head taller than everybody else in this picture. Yeah, it's kind of funny there. But thank you, and thank you for what you do. If you have additional questions, concerns, even emotional outbursts that you'd like to share with me or others about the ministry, let me know. I'll answer any questions that I could. I could have taken 5 hours to walk you through the things. In fact, the report that I created is 25 pages long, so the committee is all going, oh man. But there is so much work to be done, but I got to tell you, it has accomplished more than we could have ever imagined. It's odd that we take the money that we have here and take it to India, and it is 10 times its impact as we've been able to have if we were to try to do the same thing here. We wouldn't even be started yet. But here's the thing I want to introduce you to for just a moment as we close this. This, by the way, is a picture from the boys' dorm looking toward Burma at the mountains at sunrise. One thing that happens when you travel from the United States over there, that, you know, they're 10.5 hours difference, so time gets a little goofy. So I was up a lot early in the mornings. But tell you about another group of people very quickly. This group of people, some of them were poor, and some of them were quite rich. Some of them came from families that were broken, and others came from families that were together. Some of them came from traditions of faith and history, and some of them came from very, very, very different traditions. But all of them, at one point in their life, for one reason or another, asked the same question. Lift up my eyes to the hills, where will my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. And those people I was just talking about is you and me. These are people that have become Christians or thinking about being Christians or haven't yet found that. Most of us, at one time in our life, have asked that question, where does my help come from? Just like these kids so far away are asking, where does my help come from? I hope that the practical application of something like Angel's Place is similar in a way for you as the miracles that Jesus did for the people that followed him. It was a demonstration of things they could see and touch that illustrated where help comes from. It illustrated where our help comes from. So this morning, maybe you're someone that has forgotten and aren't relying on that help like you could. Or maybe you're a seeker looking for a way, a place, someone that could provide the love, the support, the sustenance, the salvation that you desire. If you have either of those needs, you can make them known as we stand and sing.